Hello and welcome to 100% Raw with Ruby. Now, if you are in your 40s and your 50s, if you feel like you had it easier before when you were in your 20s, maybe even early 30s, and you know that the research says that metabolism doesn't slow down, but you feel your experiences are completely different, then I think you will relate to this podcast. But I would also say you relate to it if you feel like you're someone who needs to keep your calories really low to avoid gaining anything, which kind of sucks when before it was the calories you needed to actually lose weight. And now it's just this, let's not gain. Regardless, I got this message and I thought that it would be a really powerful thing to talk about because many times things feel like they're working, and that's probably because they have in the past. Things have actually worked for me because I got results from them. And what I didn't know is that you can get results from literally anything when it is new. That's why when you have new programs every 4 weeks, you literally are progressing in your logbook every single week if you're trying to, because it's a new novel stimulus. And this is when I say sometimes progressing every single week actually has you regressing. It means you're not technically moving forwards in the way that gets you closer to your goals, because you shouldn't be able to progress every single week. No one should be able to progress every single week. It doesn't work that way, because the longer that you've been at this thing for, the slower progress gets, to the point where you're fighting to meet the logbook. Most of the time, things are going to be the same. The biggest win is just to aim for one thing that you progress on in that week. And that isn't just number focused. Because sometimes you could do a lift that looks like just poo, and then the following week it feels okay, and then it starts to feel really damn good. And if you are just looking for numbers as your means of, oh my God, I progressed, none of that was going to mean anything to you, and you probably would have given up already because, oh my God, nothing's moving. Some people, they don't even look at that because it's all in the way that they look. It's all in the way that their body looks and feels. We can pursue a goal with what we think we need to do to get there. But because our focus is so intently on the goal, the stuff that we're actually doing hasn't gotten given the consistency, the effort it needs, or it could just completely be the wrong thing. But because you've never actually looked at the inputs, you completely blame yourself or spiral or get bored or whatever else it is. But outputs don't just come out of thin air. We need to look at the inputs. It's something within the inputs that have led to you not seeing the outputs that you want, or the opposite of what you want. Like, I had this conversation with one of my clients last week, and she is a therapist herself. She is really self-aware, and she goes to me, I feel like my clothes are getting really big. I feel really bloated. She is very aware of her situation. I'm like, well, that's a very interesting thought all of a sudden. It's okay, let's get realistic with the situation. What is actually going on? Is it going to benefit you to focus on what's happening with what your body feels or how you feel in your body? And is it actually reality, or is it the fact that you aren't happy with your actions? Because your body does not change dramatically, or how you feel in your body isn't just going to change dramatically in 1 day or 2 days. There is something that caused that. It's either you did not hold a word with yourself, you did not hold the promises to yourself, so now you feel crap about that and you're blaming it on your body, or you know very well that your eating's out of control, and because of that you're feeling down about stuff. So now, oh my God, my body's like this, my body's like that. But a lot of the time, we don't actually want to face what's going on with the inputs, because it's not just about the training. It's not just about let's hit these calories. We need to look to what are the other aspects that are going on here. You can grind anything really freaking hard for a short period of time, but as soon as you have to extend that to a lifetime, that's when you need to look into, okay, how is this meant to sustain me for my whole life? Am I going to do this 12-week challenge that requires me sacrificing so much of everything that I love about my life, that I love about what I do in a day? Probably put my kids on Gumtree because I can't keep up with the demands of shit. Like, is that something that is realistic for you? And oh my God, she looks like she's just, I want her body. Oh, but she doesn't have kids. She doesn't have a demanding job like you. You can't expect yourself to align yourself with someone else's outcomes or what they're showing on social media, when your reality is, yeah, you have 24 hours like them, but they're not all yours. You're sharing some of those with your kids. You have demands. They're relying on you. You need to align things realistically with the situation that's going on. And sometimes we don't realize that, okay, cool, in our 20s and in our 30s, we didn't have that many responsibilities in our career, in our lives, in our relationships. So things shift there without us even realizing, and we probably don't even realize it now what has shifted. But that isn't just to do with calories in, calories out. That's got to do with the demands of things. And when things are factoring into your mind, like stress load, you know how much that impacts your training. And if your training is impacted, that is actually a factor in the, okay, well, muscle, calories. But I want to come back to this whole, my metabolism slowed down, things aren't the same anymore. And I guess that went off on that tangent because I said, well, things always work until they don't. That's the trap. Because they work for us, we keep sticking to it. We keep repeating that same thing. And if you're someone who was born in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, I'm pretty sure that was the skinny thigh gap culture. Like, we weren't really about the big butts and juicy thighs and let's crush watermelons with our thighs. It was all shrinking. And if you did not put enough time in your younger years invested in building muscle, from the age of 30, you're losing muscle. From the age of 35, you're losing bone if you're not doing anything to protect that. That's why they do bone density scans at a certain age. And that's why when there's people that have had eating disorders, they're even more critical to it because, okay, well, they don't have the muscle mass. They haven't had the muscle mass up until this point, and that is going to weigh on their bone because bone also requires nutrients. And if you've been dieting your whole life, that's going to take away from you as well because you've never taught your body, I need to fuel my body with this. I need to give my body energy. I need to build the training capacity to do X, Y, Z. So then by the time you hit 40, you might feel like you're training really hard. And the issue, which I think you would agree as well, is that people are just pulling programs off the internet. They're following apps on their phone. They're not really progressing over months and months and months. Yes, okay, there are people that get away with not doing that, but those people are the people on steroids where they grow with literally anything they look at. They can look at a weight and they build muscle. They don't need that much to maintain at all. And then you add in structured training to that, all of a sudden they blow up because now they actually added smart training to something that was already growing them. And this is what I see to be the biggest issue with metabolism. Because yes, metabolism is going to slow down for the majority of people because the majority of people have been chasing weight loss their whole lives and they're still stuck in that paradigm. This particular woman who said this is she's struggling to now fathom the idea that she needs to eat more food. She's going to have to be uncomfortable in a bikini. So the fact that all of a sudden this is coming to surface says to me, this is the first time that you've thought about eating more food, that you've thought about building muscle, that you've thought about going in this other direction. No wonder you've been struggling to get your calories up. No wonder you've been struggling to lose fat. It's like she's not the body composition that she wants to be because there's no muscle there. And if you keep shying away from, which she does laugh it off a lot, and that's the thing, because you want the outcome, but because knowing what it takes to get there is uncomfortable, it's very hard to face that. You don't want to accept that the way there is the way there. So you brush it off with humor. You ignore it. You try to avoid it in any way that you can by repeating the same cycle. And she literally said to me, this is why I came to you, because I'm sick of repeating the same thing. I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of trying to get by on little calories. I knew I needed help because whenever I get to this uncomfortable stage, I'm going to keep going back to a calorie deficit because that's all I've ever done. And for the first time ever, she is staying through it. But the thing is, she came to me saying she's training hard. I think, yeah, I don't know what people equate to training hard, but there's no sinking of deadlifts. She didn't know how to brace. She didn't know how to use her lats. So yes, you might feel like there is this strength there. There is this I'm training hard feeling. But a lot of the time that comes from just you're tired. You're tired from your training because you just worked your butt off in the gym, but it wasn't actually building anything. And it's very hard to build anything when you're constantly flip-flopping your calories. A lot of people say they're training hard and they're not really seeing their bodies change
people
as well.
think they're training hard, but as soon as they feel that first burn or that first bit of resistance, and that's it. Set's over. They give up.
So where does the training hard come from?
It's that last few reps that they're going to do it. So it's not when it gets uncomfortable. It's when you push through that uncomfortable.
When you were training with Martha, you were in a normal person gym. That sounds so weird to say.
Normal person gym.
Like, what did you see around you going on when people were like training and stuff? Because that would have been a great example of it.
Yeah, not serious. Playing on the phone. Big rest breaks between sets.
That actually surprises me. So there are people that take really big rest breaks, but a lot of the time training hard is because you're hardly resting between sets. You're going from one exercise to the other. You're supersetting.
They're doing like 10 minutes.
Yeah. There's like two different paradigms here where the people that feel like they're training hard it is going to be hard if you're hardly resting between sets. Like I remember when I had, well, actually it's probably people are still doing it. They need to be corrected on it. But one of my girls came to me saying, I don't want Bulgarian split splits. I don't want them. I hate them. Like it kills me. And she started loving them the second that I gave her feedback on it. What I said is, how long are you resting between your legs? You have to rest between your legs too.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not going like, of course it's gonna like fuck you over. Like that is hard shit. Like doing single leg work is hard shit. And if you are not resting one like at least a minute between your legs, then you aren't training hard enough. And a lot of people are saying they're training hard enough, but how can you be training hard enough if you haven't given yourself enough rest before that next set? There is no way that I can do the same dumbbells if I went from my left leg to my right leg straight away on anything, not even the leg press. Like you need to rest between your legs because your whole system is fatigued. With your arms, it's kind of different. I wouldn't really rest that long, but my heart rate still gets jacked up on a lot of things because I'm lifting heavy shit. And that's the point. Like there's a difference between it feeling hard and it being conducive for muscle growth. And training doesn't boost your metabolism. It doesn't burn fat. It doesn't, well, it's not the training itself. It's what that training is meant to do. And what it's meant to do is build muscle. It's the muscle that does that. But your training needs to be programmed in a way that does that. And he actually just said not much. And that's actually a really good point because a lot of people go on holidays and they say, should I eat less food? Well, are you going to do the same amount of walking or are you just going to lounge on a couch? Because I remember, like, we eat the same amount of food when we go on holidays, except one day I'm like, yeah, I need to cut my food back quite a bit because we got like 2,000 steps today. Like 2,000 steps compared to my normal.
All day.
It was, well, no, it wasn't. It was just that we were like on the couch and we didn't want to get up because we were having like the best time of our lives. And then by time it was like evening, it started pouring down and then we couldn't really go out because we didn't have a walking bag because typically we would still make those steps happen regardless. That's what you do. Because it's not meant to be a chore. It's adding to your life. It's like, okay, one day here and there isn't going to do jack shit. That's why we just adjusted accordingly, which is where these skills come in, learning how to adapt and pivot and all this kind of stuff. Something else she said though, which is why it's really important, is because menopause at 40, and then I had to reel it in and start being more mindful. I was still training hard and running marathons. Okay, so are we purposely focused on building muscle? Has the food been in a way that it's structured to build muscle? A lot of women shy away from carbs, and a big issue with that is carbs should be the second priority that you factor in when you're planning around your food because it's the carbs that are going to give you the energy. It's the carbs that are going to fuel your workouts. They're going to help you recover and help you train at your best. When my carbs are low, I feel like an absolute arse shit because my training goes to arse shit. And that's not what you want because then you start, entering the little portal where it's like, well, am I losing muscle? Am I building muscle? Am I losing muscle? Am I building muscle? And you start to lose motivation because you feel like shit. And then if you're losing motivation, no, this is actually very important because if your motivation fades, your effort percentage in anything that you do is going to start to come down without you realizing it. The only way that you're going to make it through this is to prepare for that period and to be aware of it. Is my effort sliding away? Then again, effort doesn't matter if the program isn't the right thing to start with. If you're not going to start it with the mindset of when I do a fat loss phase, I need to go all the way in. I need to stop trying to live my best life in fat loss. I need to stop trying to allow myself to fit these foods in, to still be able to eat a donut here and have a dessert at the same time, or whatever it is that you're trying to fit in, because you're going to end up hungry, craving more food, and then wanting to eat your hand off. You can't live your best life, not make any sacrifices when you're in a fat loss phase. A lot of people say you want to make it sustainable. So then it plays in your head, well, whatever I do now is what I have to do forever. And that's the worst thing that you can believe. The worst thing. Because no, it's not. If you can make the sacrifices now and plan ahead for it, like something that I love to do when I have girls that are actually structured and there's someone that is bang, bang, bang with their non-negotiables, with their habits, with their calendar, I will ask them, is there anything coming up in this period of time that will make it hard for you to stick to your fat loss phase? Are there any events? Are there any eating out gatherings? What are you going to choose as the one that you're going to make as your special event? Because it's not a special event if it's every single weekend. You need to make your sacrifices. And most people eat out more than once a week. And a lot of people buy their lunches out, buy this out, buy that out. You can't equate for that the same way than if you made it yourself. So it's all these different things we have to be aware of. Now, because I know this client, and this one has pretty much just been the fact that because she's never allowed herself to push into the discomfort, it's very clear that she's never actually went into a muscle building phase. She's never actually went into a strength phase, but also because I know what her program was like before coming to me, which was following a group program app thing. Yeah, okay, you can stay accountable to this thing that's telling you to lift heavier and chase heavier weights, but where do you go from there? Does it have a logical progression over time? Are you sticking with the same lifts over a longer period of time? Are you actually stronger, not just 6 months after doing one thing, but 6 months after that, not just cycling around? Like, put a good chunk of time into building muscle and you will thank yourself. It's just that 1 year feels like it's so long, 2 years feels like it's so long. But you said this to me as well. The best bodybuilders are the ones that take 2 years off and then go and diet. But we're not doing it the bodybuilding way because bulk and cut cycles are bullshit. We don't want to bulk and cut and do this big, that's like glorified yo-yo dieting. You want to put yourself into a slight surplus. Aggressive maintenance to start with. Do all the training that you can. Like for me, it's let's just get your food to a maintenance level. Get your training up, motivated, strong, pushing it. That comes first. I will not push into a slight surplus for people until they have that. Then to keep progressing the training as much as possible and then keep pushing that maintenance to the aggressive level. It is all in the training. You don't eat on muscle. You don't protein on muscle. It's training on muscle. The food facilitates your training. The food is to make you train at your best. And then from there, once you've reached this point where you're not seeing any changes now, that's when you start to eat just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. The reason that most people end up in this spiral is because they don't know how to do building. So then they put on excess fat, and then because they're not the body composition that they want to be, they cut their building early. And they never actually built anything to start with, because if your building hasn't went for at least 8 months, at least, you would not have built much at all, because that's just going to come off as soon as you diet. That's why I say make it go past that year, because most people aren't willing to go into enough of a surplus to allow for it to have any percentage of it cut off. Because if you did go into more of an aggressive build, yeah, okay, maybe we will not have to do it for so long. And the sad thing is that most people don't know how to feel good because they've never been there. They've always walked into a gym deprived, low on food, low on carbs, they're in there to punish themselves. They're in there to burn calories. They're not there to be at their best. And I wish you could see what it's like on the other side. Like, that's where I'm chasing things. I don't care if things go up or down. I celebrate things and go off my mind when I get like something greater, but it just feels good regardless because I feel fucking strong. And that's what we want to chase. It's just like you want to chase that as well. It's not that you don't want to like eat more food and eat more carbs and get to this level. It's like you do, but at the same time, you're so scared of it because what if I get fat? What if this? What if that? But then at the same time, you haven't yet faced the fact that you might need to buy bigger clothes and that doesn't sit well with you. And I would offer you the go and reframe that. Go and reframe that because I would rather look really sexy naked than in clothes. You dress up to make the clothes look good on you. You don't buy clothes to try to fit the clothes, if that makes sense. Because half of the clothes in there, I look like a potato in them. Because number one, I've had them for years. Number two, some of them are made with the worst freaking cuts. Like, how do I feel about sleeves?
No, not a fan.
No. Unless I'm wearing like one of his baggy shirts or a baggy shirt that I can just walk around like and grub around with. Like I went to Bunnings today. Like, I like that shit because I don't have to wear pants, and I reckon pants are prisons.
You didn't have pants on.
I didn't have pants on. Like, my whole thing with women has been booty shorts, like just a funny little hashtag, because I want you to feel confident in your legs, and you're never going to feel confident in your legs if you're so scared of them feeling fluffy, of your thighs touching, of them rubbing. Now, I'm actually going to bring in the pre-mortem, post-mortem. This is where you know the outcome that you don't want. You don't want to spin your wheels again. You don't want to go into a diet, have to cut your calories, gain the weight back, and then it's just like, well, I still need to live on 1,500 calories. She was living on 1,400, 1,500 calories, and then she gave up dieting anymore because she felt like every single time that she had to diet, she had to cut her calories so low that was unsustainable. And if you had the training capacity there, if you built up your aerobic capacity, building up your aerobic capacity helps you to burn more calories. You call it mitochondrial density because the more that your body needs to produce oxygen, just like when you have capillaries, like when you first start training, you'll probably notice the capillaries. You start forming a lot more of those because your body is going to need more places to divert the nutrients in the blood. So it's going to respond to that. Your bodies are amazing machines. And same with muscles. You get muscle fibular hypertrophy, and then you get the muscle sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Mitochondria works the same way. You end up using more energy. Your body uses energy better. That's why you become a better carb burner when you have more muscle. That's why you can store carbs better. You not only store energy better, you use it better. You have more energy because you just built more mitochondria up. And I have this thing against hybrid training because you want to build an amazing body, but you want to juggle cardio and lifting. But then cardio takes away from the lifting with the recovery. And then you also don't want to eat enough carbs to get there. So that's going to impact on you, which is why my food needs to get fixed as well, because now I'm doing cardio every day and that's going to, my greatest worry is freaking losing muscle. That's my thing. I'm not doing it to lose fat. I'm doing it because I love my running. It makes me feel good. I love reading for that. Like, it's just something that if you want to actually build the body, you need to put more resources into the muscle before you worry about the cardio stuff. Just go on an incline walk. That's easier to recover from. We're doing things here to build our body. It's like, what's the end goal? Always remember the end goal. Never get that end goal out of your mind. And then you align the actions with that. That goes back to the start of the conversation. What are the inputs? You can't blame yourself or blame your coach for what's happening with the outputs because they're not doing the inputs. They gave you the inputs to do. Are you actually doing them? And are you doing them consistently enough? Are you doing them with the effort that they need? Are you even aware of things that could be taking away from that? Sometimes many people aren't, which I kind of am only aware of when I do it, when I'm aware of when I'm doing it, like when I'm eating chicken that is in a different bowl than the bowl that I'm weighing. There are many other situations where people will be eating crisps and they're like weighing the crisps and then, okay, that's perfect. I'm just going to eat the rest out of the bag now. Did you weigh that? Did you weigh the wine that you just had with the meal? This is, it's the inputs into the outputs. So if your body isn't aligned with where it should be, what is it that you're missing? It might not even be what you're missing now. It might have been in the past. And if you don't understand how it all adds together, that's where that coach comes in. That's where you need someone to take over and you need to stop second guessing, second doubting everything. Because it's just frustrating because I swear training is the missing link for so many people. If you don't know how to brace and you don't know how to hinge, then we can't say that you've been training hard in an effective way. Like, you want to be able to, like bend and snap in a way that doesn't make things snap. Like, please don't snap. We want the bend without the snap. We want the hinge. We want the bracing. We want the tightness. Because if we can say that you can brace your core in every single move, you can open up your hips, you can get into a hinge. Then we know that you can get into all the different squat positions because you need to hinge to get into a squat. If you can't hinge, you're not squatting properly either. The hinge isn't just for a deadlift. You hinge into a squat. You hinge into those things because your hips need to internally and externally rotate, which is another issue that a lot of people have because they think that you need to put the weight on your heels when you do a lot of things, when you need that weight on your toes. That's a long about conversation to say that you don't have the metabolism of someone that's on 1600 calories as this like doom forever. It's just we need to fix your approach. We need to get you to a place that is more conducive for your goals. We need to get you building muscle. And something that I can actually empathize with, and I know he can too, because we both talk about it and reminisce on our younger days in the gym. How did we find it so easy to just beat our bodies up then? How did we find it so easy to just get away with all this bullshit we did to our bodies and training like assholes? But to be honest, would you really want to train like that moving into a life where there are other things that are your priority? Like, honestly, when you either have kids or you want to have kids, you either have a partner or you want to get married or you want to have dogs or you want to take your career to, why do I want to say the next Michael Phelps level? That's because what I also wanted to say there, because whenever I say that, a lot of people think that you get yourself out of a diet or you end a diet and you reverse. That's bullshit. When you do things properly, you get your ass into a diet. Say you're maintaining on like 2,100 calories. Put you into like a 1,500 calorie deficit. Then I would jack you back up to like 1950, 2000 to start with. I'm not doing this like baby TD toddler stuff. That's why people struggle with diets, because you're going to be freaking hungry the second that you start eating more food. So if you only give yourself an extra 100 calories, your body is going to want an extra friggin' 3,000 calories. You need to not change your food for the first 3 weeks because you're going to start craving more hyperpalatable foods. If you do this the right way, it really doesn't have to be that difficult. Your maintenance really isn't 1,600 calories, because if you were doing things right, you would be only dieting for the smallest percentage of the year. I don't want to just shovel in food because I don't want to diet. Like, I just don't. I'd rather go really, really slow, push aggressive maintenance as much as I can, and then have a few days where I'm in a surplus, because that will still put me into a surplus for the majority of the week. The thing is that I'm still eating in the aggressive maintenance. I'm eating enough to fuel my performance. I'm eating enough to recover. That makes me happy as long as my training is going up and I'm getting juicy because I, I I don't want to lose muscle. I want to build as much reservoir as I can. And this is another thing actually, because I think she has kids. And if you have kids, something to keep in mind is there is a good percentage there for 9 months that you're not building any. Well, you still will be building stuff for like 2 months out of that, maybe three. But the focus isn't on building muscle. The focus there is on just keeping yourself fit, healthy, working on things that are going to strengthen your glutes, going to strengthen your back because the baby's going to pull you forward, that are going to strengthen your pelvic floor. Like that shit's important. But then what happens after you give birth? There's going to be like 4, 6, 8 weeks, depending on the person, sometimes 12 weeks, that you're not going to be in the gym. You're going to be losing muscle. Did you have a great enough reservoir to start with? Because then there are people that have babies after babies after babies. Like, this is all stuff to take into consideration when we're talking about metabolism, when we're talking about this stuff. Because if you're someone that said that your metabolism this, your metabolism that, but then you had 3 babies, pop, 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 like that needs to be taken into consideration too. I hate when people say that you shouldn't really chase these vanity goals. I never know what I say on frigging group calls or podcasts, but I think I said it on there. But you should be allowed to chase the vanity goals. You should be allowed to chase your most confident self because going after this body transformation pursuit does change your life. It's just that you shouldn't be pursuing that as the goal. That's a byproduct. The only reason it changes your life is because of the person you become in the process. I am not the same person I was when I started this. You will never have that character that you're craving if you just chase diets. Because building muscle and all the strength stuff, I feel like powerlifting really taught it. It teaches you so much about not only delayed gratification, but just how much effort needs to go in to maintain something. And go back to the relationships thing, go back to the maintain the results from a diet. Like effort still needs to go into that. Actually, this was something I really wanted to say because I really hated it when my math teacher was trying to argue against me about this because he was trying to be a smartass about the actual equation and the way that the answer was got to by solving the problem, but it doesn't make sense in real life. When you press an accelerator on a car, probably you might know the math problem. You press an accelerator on the car's going to rev up. And then if you take your foot off the accelerator, it doesn't just keep traveling at the same speed. It slows down over time. Meaning, maintenance or maintaining, whatever you want to call it, isn't a passive pursuit. You still need to put in the effort. It's just you don't need to put in as much oomph. That's why when you go into, I'm sorry if you don't know manual cars, but I'm sure you understand the premise of it. If you go onto like a motorway or whatever, so you just start driving, you go into gear one, and that's like the biggest bang for buck. But if you keep trying to drive on gear one, you're gonna redline and fuck up your bloody motor. Like, no, you need to go into gear two, and then gear three, and then gear four, and then you usually cruise on gear four. That's the same thing. Like, you're still putting in the effort. You're just on a different gear. You needed a lot more to get the spark going. And then you get to go into the lower gears, but you still need to put in the effort there. And that's the thing with training as well. Like, you always need to put in that little bit of extra effort with the training if you are still aiming to improve in your lifts, because it's not easy to push the last sets to failure. It really isn't. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it. I really want to tie up this podcast so that it stays around the same topic because training needs to be effective. And I had a client come to me who was on and off the diet. She never had anyone guide her into a clear direction forward. And I never gave her a clear direction forward with like the fat loss and the nutrition stuff. To be honest, I actually never did. It was just with training. But now she's in the best body composition of her life. Best. She has the like defined arms. She's the most motivated she's ever been. She's the most consistent she's ever been. She actually wants to go to the gym. She didn't crash diet for her wedding. She looks amazing. But why? Why? Because before, something she told me was, I never pushed my sets near as much as you're telling me to push them now. Because I would enter the gym and I just saw this huge program of all of these exercises and I just felt drained and tired just looking at it. And isn't that the reality of most programs if they're not filled with like fluff work? Effective work gets the job done. And that's why I put my most effective work at the start of my shit, because the rest is pretty much like accessories. Yeah, you still need to give them the best effort, but if you're not challenging yourself, nothing's gonna grow out of that. The confidence you gain in this process is the thing that you've been chasing your whole time through diets. What does confidence mean to you? Something that I love to ask, which we're going to do with our goal setting, is how do you want to feel? this time next year, where do you see yourself? How do you want your life to feel? How do you want to experience it? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? And then track it back from there. And then going back to the post-mortem that I never actually explained, this is where this comes in as well. And this is also where this client comes in as well. What do you not want? You don't want to go back into the cycle anymore. Okay. If you haven't listened to my goal setting podcast, I might end up replaying that for the new year. And when we do our group calls for the end of the year as well, I'm going to be going into a lot more of the goal setting stuff, and I might have to do some solo videos for them too. But this is something that you'll be a part of and into as we go. But get really clear on what you don't want your reality to be. Look into your past, get ruthless. Get ruthless with your past habits. Get ruthless with your past outcomes. Get ruthless about what you did or didn't do, where you feel like you sabotaged. Like, become your own worst critic, but also become your own cheerleader. What worked? Get really clear on what you don't want from that. And then what we need to do is scale it backwards. We want to avoid those things. What needs to happen for you to avoid falling into that same trap? Because you're not going to avoid getting the outcome. You're going to avoid the habits that you know led to that. Because again, you can't control the outcomes. How don't you want to feel? What's going to lead to that? Trace it backwards. I call it reverse storytelling. And if you don't know anything about decision-making models, Shane Parrish, please read his books. I love his books on the models of thinking. They're called he has quite the great mental models, general thinking concepts. That's a really good book. Highly recommend. But yeah, I hope this helped. And if there's anything else that you want me to ramble on, just reach out, because I feel like this is such an important topic. It really is. And it's the most uncomfortable thing to put yourself through yourself. So if you do need help with that, reach out. I'm here to help. And we do have to come up with something to do together with that too, because it'll be really freaking awesome. But I do want to get that goal setting thing out to you guys as well. But if you want to listen to it, if you can't find it in my feed, which it was around the start of last year, or this year, I should say, wow, the start of this year, then just shoot me a message on Instagram, transformxruby, and I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, love you all, and I hope you benefit from this.